Hey everybody, this is Brad Dyke reaching out to you to say hi. And as I promised, I said some time ago I was going to be redoing a Dell PowerEdge R910. It's a quad array, that means it has 4 processors in it, a huge amount of storage capacity for RAM. And I kid you not, these things can just take on the memory. And but it has some TLC needs. A little bit of love and care, a little bit of tenderness, and all that good stuff. So I thought I would show you basically what I'm working with here. So as you can see, these are memory units, and inside these units, over here on the side, you'll have 4 DIMM sockets on each side, one on that side and one on this side. So there's 8, 8, 16, you can do your math. Right, I've got 4 of these over here. I've got 2 of these here, and they go into here. See all those slots? Isn't that incredible? And I still don't have enough to fully populate this with memory. And of course, right here you can see the sockets that are not populated and the sockets that are. And I have replacement heat sinks here, which will be going in, and I've got new quad processors, higher-ended processors than what's in there now, which are pretty baseline processors. I'll turn around and sell those for somebody who wants to have a good line, basic line system. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this camera on a tripod so that you can see what's going on here and understand what we've got. But before I do that, I'll show you in the back here, it has quad style power supplies. You need a minimum of 2 when you have 4 processors on board. You have the 10 gigabit NIC, you've got the quad 4 gigabit style connectors over there, but there's really not much more in there. As you can see, here we have the fan bay array, which is empty, and I'll show you how that gets populated. And I'll be going through the process. Now, I grounded this floor. In other words, I dissipated all the static electricity in this lab. I do that with a special configuration of wiring and setups that I do here. But I do recommend that you make sure that you have a controlled surface area for static electricity discharges, because even though these are fairly flexible and capable, they still can pop on you. So stand by here for a second while I get the tripod set up. Okay, so considering this chassis is so big and so dense, it has a lot of mass ratio to it, so that's significant when it comes to dealing with the weight and the handling of this. So I put it on the floor after I clear the static discharges in the environment, so I can get this to a point where I can actually begin the work. Now, as you can see, I'm extracting the fan assembly, which is a tray set. I'll put that over here. I do depopulate the fan assemblies, but as you can see, there are push-pull style fans here. One in the front, one in the back. They're flipped up, so they create the push-pull effect. And then if you look here, you will see now that the CPUs are fully exposed. And because they're fully exposed, I can now get to the back of them to release the lock latches there. That's these guys right here. And be able to raise them up and clear these units correctly so that I can get in and put the new processors in. Plus retire the old processors that are in here. But as you can see, the board is pretty basically large. It's one of the largest motherboards I've seen in a while. It's from the back all the way up to here in the memory configuration. And over here you can see, I'm sorry about it being upside down, but you can see the SAS bus, which is also fully functional, which supports these disks here in the front. So I'm not going to pause the video while I do this work, and I'll talk as I go so that you guys can have an insight of what I'm doing. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the processors that I currently have. The dope is pretty decent, so it's been recently reapplied. I'll be putting a series MX4, the MX2 style coolant on this because these processors surprisingly actually run pretty cool. That being said, still it's something to be concerned about. So now what I'm doing is I'm extracting a processor. And this is the new processor that will be going in its place. And as you can see, She's big. She's a capable processor. And the functionality is important. So the one key detail here you want to do is you want to make sure you get the proper orientation of your processor stack, how it's placed inside the bay before you extract it. And you put the new one in. Make sure it is a correct fit. Here's the old one. Has its grayness on it. And I'm going to put that over here on the sideline so it doesn't get squashed or anything like that. And I'm going to go ahead and prepare this tray area to provide, let me see, yeah, okay, that's right, to provide proper coverage as well. And remove the shield cover. Put the next processor in. Get the proper orientation. Proper orientation is the spike point. It's got a little arrow on it. That is the one you want to properly orientate to put into its new home. Match it to the exact same set on the other one. That is good. Alright, we are going to do this again. Taking off the next shield. Get the correct orientation. And so these are 18 core processors, which means they can do 32 on the multi-core side. You can do your math on that. That's why I believe this motherboard, this particular Rev motherboard, will do 2 terabytes of capacity. And you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of capacity, but actually it's not. Back in 2008, 2009, one of the first Oracle ZFS platforms, and when it wasn't really called an Oracle platform back then, it was still kind of quasi-Sun, they came out with the ZFS array, which is a physical piece of hardware, not what you call ZFS as the software version, which turned out to be much more successful than the hardware version. But the really cool thing about the hardware is that the bloody thing had 1 terabyte of capacity on it for RAM. And if you know anything about how to RAM drive something, that would be an excellent boot drive. So anyways, I'm removing the older style processor. This is the secondary one. I'm putting that over here. And I am now putting its final processor in, making sure it's mated correctly. And check them one more time. Don't touch the TED. That's the piece of metal in the center. It's a thermoelectric diode, I believe. As they get higher, they get more intricate on the processor configuration. And make sure that is in good. And make sure that is in good. Okay, it is. And lower the mounting plates. Lock the armatures in. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And as you can see, I am lowering the plate sets. This is the first place set. And the next generation actually has 2 release locks on it. This one has got only 1. So when I lower the lid cap and I use the 1 lever lock, it holds it in place. And then the secondary sets of lever locks, these blue tipped ones, are for the heatsink, which I've got to admit I actually kind of like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little blob of coolant on top of these guys, a thermal paste, basically about that much, a little smaller than a dime's worth. It will spread out evenly and it will do its job. And then I can begin to reassemble this unit to get it to the point where it is going to be ready for the next part. Now, with that being the case, let's go ahead and get the coolant going. I call it coolant because it reminds me of my dad's electrolytic compound coolants, which is an interesting concept all by itself. Okay, so I've done this for a long time, and basically this is how I do it. I got my little puddle of thermal paste in those locations. I don't do X's, I don't do O's, I don't do any of that. Go to the center mass of the heat sink area so that you have equal distribution of how you need it to lay down. Very important process. Next, you want to put the heat sink on. It has to go in correctly, which it's not. Let's see why not. That's because I had it backwards. You gotta love dyslexia, don't you? Not. Alright, the first one is secured. Second one is going on next. I'm going to keep this on a clean format. Applying the new ones that are already in play. That is good. Secure the unit. Keep your hand on the heatsink while you're securing it, and make sure that it stays square and level. Now when you do that, you look down here, you're going to see a level point here and a level point here. The same on the back side too. You need to make sure they level out correctly, or the heatsink's not sitting flush on the CPU and it's going to overheat. So let me get the other two on. Okay, it is secure. Now we're doing the last one. Okay, double check your heat sinks are secure. They feel secure. So now you can take the tray, the fan tray, this guy right here. This is the back part. The way you know that is because you got sleeves for I/O cards here. This is the front part. Okay. Correction, my bad. This is the back part because you have the die stack lock here. These are the feed guidelines for the RAM. So I apologize, I was wrong. I'm just backwards all day today, aren't I? Okay. That is now locked into place. Now we are putting the fan assemblies in. Remember that, pay attention to your power output. That is where you have to place the unit in play. I always do tend to mix them. The reason why I've mixed them is because a lot of times if there's a fault and a failure in fan, when it's repositioned and put back into place, it may fail. So execute your fans, rotate the fans, and if they come back up good to go, then you're in good shape. So now let's take a look at it now. As you can see, it's starting to look normal again. Here are our stacks. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 banks of memory. But I only have 6 banks. So that means 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And unfortunately, probably I would say on CPU 01, that's this one, This is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. And number 3 will only have a filler plate for number 8 and number 7. So, the key important detail here is that the memory that was set in place for the, hang on a second, no. The memory set in place for the bay here was for this processor stack right here. So I'm going to put him back into his home. Yeah, that's right. Okay. On this one, it has, I stand corrected, hang on a minute, I had that backwards. Yeah, there we go. And then this one, oops, nope, I did it again. There's so many slots in here that they have to keep them properly staged so they don't go to the wrong set. Now, when you look at this one, you're going to see that there's memory in this one. Now, what I could do is I could take 2 of these and put them in this one and 2 of these, but I don't need to because these 2 are dedicated. It's just that these first 2 blocks of 8s only have 4 memory units. So, hang on a second. Alright, so that's done. Again, I have the same setup for 0, no memory. So he's going to go, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the one with memory in it, because that's important. In. Okay, and then its partner. It's not releasing. There it goes. All right, now, so what I'm going to have to do next is I'm going to have to put a blank tray in here, and then one more blank tray in here. And then at that point stage, since I don't have memory for this unit yet, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy in here, and this guy in its home. And unfortunately, I cannot test this yet, but I can streamline its function now. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first things first. Take a look at how this is set up. Now, it doesn't even look like the same thing, does it? It's all solid. Very little true open space for air convection. Now, technically speaking, there is still a lot of space in here, but it's very compartmentalized. So that means heat is driven by compartments. So you have some hot zones in here, but you also have some fairly cool zones too. And depending on how heavily I use this machine, will dictate how warm it's going to make my lab. But I'm not going to have this machine that long because I'm planning on donating it to our local library system because they're kind of hurting on processor stacks and stuff like that. So this might help them basically get their makerspace strategies up and running, and they can do some more functionalized technology deployments than what they can do today. So, with that being said, right now, even though I can handle quite a few. Okay, so with that being the case, the next thing I'm going to do for now in this particular video, because I wanted to show you the build outs, is I'll be putting these behemoth rails on. They're pretty doggone huge. And they'll basically be able to make my life a lot easier because I won't have to pick up the beast. And when you look at this thing, as you can see here, it's big. It is not in any way, shape, or form light. It is solid, it is a brick, and it's powerful. It has a lot of functional processing powers. The only system is not quite as powerful as this system is mine, my workstation. It has 40 cores in it. Actually 48 cores. Where this one has twice that. So it runs a little hotter than my 2600 series V4s, but it is a powerhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I thought you'd get a really big kick out of this particular setup. The next stage will be, I'm getting about 200, 300 gigs of RAM and adding it with the 64 gigs that are here already. Basically, I'll have roughly the necessary firepower to bring these guys up and get them running. But the core goal here is to make sure that it's fully compliant. You know what I mean? Fully ready to go and doesn't yawn on you when he's doing a video. Anyways, this is Brad Dyke. I'm going to let you go. Have a blessed weekend and God bless.